to the Food Founders interview. Today, I'm joined by two of the founders of the Free From Food Awards. They're the UK's only awards dedicated to free from food and drink products and innovation. Now in its 15th year, the distinctive yellow badge is coveted by producers and noticed by retailers and allergen-aware consumers alike. But how did they come about? What are their aims? How do they help producers? And how has the free from landscape changed over those 15 years? Nice to see you guys. Good morning.
Hi.
Morning.
I guess the first question, Cressida, is how did the Free From Food Awards come about?
So the Free From Food Awards started in 2008, and they came about from a tasting grid that we used to publish in a magazine that we ran called Foods Matter. And the team used to go out and buy all the products we could find in a certain category, like biscuits, and then we would bring them back, taste them with a group of discerning colleagues, and then we would critique them for free from their ingredients, their price, and we would list the availability and the cost and the nutritionals, and we would publish that in the center of the magazine. And then that was when Freeform was quite small and quite sort of, there were only a few products to be found. And then as more and more came on the market and more were available all over the country, it just became too much for our team to manage it ourselves. And so we started the awards and we got companies to send them in, and it wasn't long at all before it became a commercial operation just by virtue of how fast it grew.
And what were you doing? I guess a question for both of you, really. What were you doing before you started the awards? You said you were running the magazine. Was that the ideal training for running an award?
I before that I was working for a peace and conflict resolution charity called Peace Direct, which was actually still going, which was obviously great training for absolutely anything. But when I joined Foods Matter, which it then was, I was just managing the subscriptions for the magazine, and then very quickly took on the awards and became the administrator for the awards. So, yeah.
And how about you, Nikki?
My background's retail. So I spent over 15 years at Tesco in various different capacities, in commercial, spent a long time in beers, wines and spirits, where I started with the PR and then sort of the role broadened into a greater marketing capacity. I then went on to work on a number of the customer plans, so which are kind of the strategic business priorities at the time. And that led me into the brand team. I took over from Patricia Weiwei, managing Freefrom, ironically. And this is kind of indicative to how Freefrom at that time was perceived. I'd just returned from maternity leave. I'd been looking after a number of health brands. I had a desire, certainly short time, to work part-time. And it was like, oh, well, Patricia's moving on. And Patricia, it'd be quite an easy, seamless handover. And Freefrom, yeah, you can do that in part-time hours. Yeah, that's a good plan. So from that point on, I kind of, it wasn't just a job. It was a lot more than that. So my last 10 years actually at Tesco, I spent on Freefrom. It set me up perfectly, really, for taking on board. I reached a point at Tesco where I wanted to diversify slightly. And I'd been working with Cressida for many years as both an entrant and sponsor. So I had a good grounding of the retail side and also, the awards process.
Brilliant. And I guess you must have got to know a lot of producers and so forth as well.
Yeah, and it was really exciting because obviously, a lot of the brands, but also I could be talking to, a far wider audience as well.
How did you set about starting the awards?
Well, we already had a database of manufacturers. So, and we also already had a template of for information gathering, and we had a bank account and we had a business name. So we sort of, put them all together, and it wasn't very difficult because people wanted to shout about their products. So actually things started flowing quite quickly. And the first year we also, for a few years actually, but from the very first year, we collaborated with Anthony Royal Thompson, who at the time was one of the very few chefs who was incorporating Freefrom into his restaurants. And so the first presentation party was actually upstairs at the Notting Grill, which I think is now closed. And then since that first year, it's grown consistently about 8% year on year, even through Brexit and the pandemic, which I think really illustrates the appetite for competition and, having a party and celebrating and looking for that inclusivity and fun. I think people enjoy our awards because they're good fun and they are very collaborative.
Have you had sponsors from the start, and was it easy to get sponsors on board?
Yes. Yes, we've had sponsors that have been with us from the very first year. Other sponsors have come and gone. We've got, a lot of new sponsors each year. We talk to more people. Sometimes it's right and they jump in and they're really excited, and sometimes they sort of think, actually, this isn't quite right for us right now. We do a lot of collaborations as well, which is really fun. So, just one-off things now and again, which might work or might not work. So we do like to play around with that a bit. Because there's a lot of noise to be made about freeform, and there's a lot of different ways about making that noise. And for us, the awards, we have always abided by our central tenets, which are the consumer is at the heart of the awards. The awards only exist because there are people who have allergies and intolerances to food and drink. And although they're industry awards, they're consumer facing, so they have to address the needs of the freeform and allergic consumer. Which brings us to the obvious point, which the products entered have to be free from at least one of the top 14 major allergens. We critique them on their clear and compliant labelling, and year on year we evolve that. As standards have had to become higher and higher and higher, we have thus raised our bar. And then almost the most important thing, well, actually, another thing is that they must be available nationwide, although we've dropped that one slightly. With respect to the specialty category, simply because most specialist foods are produced regionally or locally. So that's the first time we've done that for this year. And then the most important thing is that they are blind judged, except for categories like gifting, where packaging is essential to be taken into account, and the children's category, whereby for kids, for adults too, but really for kids, part of their enjoyment of a food is opening it and the packaging and maybe the design and all that sort of thing, but they're all blind judged. So all judges have no idea what product is in front of them. They eat it, they taste it, they talk about it, and at the end they will find out who's made it. But that really allows for a level playing field, so you can get Mrs. Bloggs' gluten-free biscuits, up against an M&S biscuit, and nobody knows. And we're really hot on that. That's something that's really important to us.
Yeah, it's a real opportunity to support smaller emerging businesses, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nikki, what's the team like at Freeform Food Awards?
Small.
Lean, I think is the term.
Yeah, the core team is really, really small, but incredibly, and you'll hear this all the time, but the dedication is there. And I think as an industry, Freeform kind of really does have an awful lot of people in role that have a real desire to be there, and they genuinely love what they do. So yeah, our team is small. We've tried expanding, and we're not afraid of trying different things. But like so many small businesses, we've just found the best approach for us is flexibility. There's no way we can cover all the skills required within a core team. It's just not financially viable for us. So we have a small core team, and we lean on different skills at different times. So for us, we have a extended team of consultants and freelancers that we work with on different aspects of the business. And for us, that just ensures we can best meet the needs of the business at any given time. So, great deal of adaptability, great deal of resilience, but huge level of commitment within the team, and just ensuring that our expectations are realistic, which engenders a really positive culture within the team. So,
and presumably, because there's 2 awards at the moment, isn't there? There's the Christmas ones and the main ones. So, whilst you aren't necessarily in the public eye all year round, I guess you're still busy doing other things and supporting producers, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and anyone in the industry knows that Christmas starts, in the summer, if not, in terms of development, well before that. It's at least a 52-week lead time. So yeah, it's a constant cycle.
Excellent. Looking back over the 15 years, how would you say you touched on it already a little bit, but how has the freeform landscape changed and evolved?
Absolutely tremendous. I don't think there's any way now. When I left my role at Tesco, it was a full-time position that went, so there's a huge amount of change. tremendous growth, which is illustrated in our metrics. And that's the upward trajectory of both not only the number of products that entered, but the number of brands. And it's really pleasing that, continually we're seeing the sort of same kind of level year on year of small and large, that really nice, good mix. It's not like the market landscape is dominated by, the big retail brands. Ranges have increased beyond all recognition, addressing the vast majority now of occasion needs. You would be hard pushed for certainly gluten, milk, egg, not to be able to find something that pretty much meets every occasion need. Now, obviously, some are stronger than others. Certainly in ambient, all of that covered. We're certainly seeing more categories jumping on board, and the inclusivity has increased tenfold. I mean, I think the launch of our Christmas awards is testament to that, in that six years ago, there was no way you could have a standalone cycle for Christmas. Producers were wanting to enter Christmas products, and we'd have maybe in the main awards, a handful of brands wanting to enter a Christmas product, and that was it. Whereas now, there are huge, you only have to look, the different varieties of mince pies are now available in Freeform, for argument's sake. So yeah, it's changed beyond all recognition.
And at the beginning, was it more small producers, or have the supermarkets been on board since the start?
There were small producers, yes, but certainly, and maybe I'm a little bit biased coming from the retail background, but it certainly felt for me, the Freeform landscape, and Preston might have a different view, but led the charge. So I think there's some debate over who went first with own label Freeform, whether it was Sainsbury's or Tesco, but Tesco launched in 2003. Sainsbury's claimed to have own label launched in 2002. So round about, the early 2000s. And they've continued to evolve the offer. Brands have done the same. And I think there was that, almost the eureka moment was that understanding of the loyalty of that Freeform consumer. So it's a niche range, but that loyalty is something that you can't. And with the launch of all the, Club Card and other loyalty cards, loyalty became a big, big player in the retail market. So it's a metric and a language that's, commercially was really understood. So that was a really, really fundamental point, I think. And the Freeform consumer really does trust the retailer and large retail brands, because they know, not necessarily, to the nth degree, the effort that goes into developing them, ensuring the product safety, but they know that a brand would not compromise. The likes of, Asda and Sainsbury's of this world are not going to put a product on shelf that isn't safe. So there's an inherent trust. And I think within food service, Natasha's Law has brought around a much needed focus and has been a tremendous force for change within the food service industry.
So you're getting entries from, for products that are aimed at food service, retail, direct to consumers across the board.
We have a bespoke food service category. We did have that in the awards historically. It was dormant for a little while, obviously with COVID, and it just wasn't a priority from a development perspective. But we reintroduced it 2 years ago, I think. So for 2024, this will be its kind of third consecutive year back. And, certainly in this year's awards, it was a really interesting category. And we open it not only to products that are currently available, but also to entrants who have a finished product that they all, think is suitable, and they would be keen to pursue distribution to the food service.
And one of the things from reading the website, apart from the awards, what else does the organisation do in terms of, supporting producers?
One of the key things that we have is the most brilliant feedback pack. So it has insights from the judges about the specific product that has been entered, as insights on the category, like if it's a biscuit, the biscuits category in Freeform, and then it has insights on the wider Freeform community, wider Freeform offer, which is, that is incredibly valuable resource. And we've had people who enter year on year, having taken that feedback on board, evolve their product and come back to market. And so we really love that, and our entrants really value that. We let all of our entrants know that we are here to answer any questions they have, whether they're specific to the awards or the wider free from world. We often have people asking us industry questions, or if people want to sell their businesses, they ask us for referrals, or if they're looking for a free from factory or something like that to manufacture for them. So it's more the small producers that come to us, because obviously the bigger ones have their own teams to do the sort of research. But we also find that some of the language around, particularly the legislation on free from and allergen labelling, is quite complicated and a bit misleading. So we do have a lot of quite in-depth conversations, quite serious conversations with small producers. So they do know we're always here to help wherever we can. And we show up to conferences and shows, trade shows, consumer shows. Sometimes if we have the resources, we would take winners with us and showcase them to the consumers or the trade shows if we can. So yeah, we're always open to any suggestions about how we can support the entrants.
Brilliant. So people should lean on you for that, I guess.
Yeah.
And I noticed the awards open on the 3rd of January.
Yeah.
What's the process for people wanting to enter?
So entry is all online. We hope it's quite straightforward. We try to evolve our entry instructions every year, and we have guidelines that people can read through. But essentially, it's all online. We've got about 15 mandatory questions which we have to have answered, and then we've got some ones that are voluntary to answer if you want, like how sustainable your product is, or how who the target audience is, or what evolutions you've done, how long it's been on the market, that sort of thing. And then you submit, you pay your entry fee, and then you have instructions about where and when to send your samples, and then we take it from there. Is
it possible to sum up what you're looking for in products? Is there particular things you want to see represented?
It's quite diverse, and it's like everything. It's not quite as straightforward as one may think. So I guess I wanted to start by saying it's not a simple first, second, and third within the awards. So the breadth of entries we receive can vary hugely. And, with it, because of that, there are products that shine, within their own rights. And it just wouldn't be fair to say, that one stands head and shoulders above this particular one because of the breadth of entries that we would receive. So basically, if a product is medal worthy, it will receive a medal. So there's no cap on medals. And I think, that's such a positive story for us. This year we've had more gold medal winners than ever before in the awards, which is indicative of the investment that's been put into, new product development. We're looking for it's more complex than, say, the Great Taste Awards, because quality is one individual aspect. We're looking for products that fill a gap in the market or meet a genuine occasion need, display an innovative use of ingredients that remove unnecessary allergens, clear labelling, because part of the entry form captures, obviously, how the products are labelled. Our judges are also looking at typical tasting things, the visual, the aroma, how the product aligns with the expectation, flavour, texture, and all of this is considered within the context of free from. Because what may be a very simple product to produce in main category within the free from and with the manufacturing restrictions and so forth, it can be really quite complex. So it's quite interesting, if you look back at some of our innovation winners over the past 5, 6, 7 years, you will see products like Tesco Free from Chicken Kiev winning in innovation, but genuinely that was really innovative to be able to deliver a gluten and milk free chicken Kiev, and it's a product that consumers really, really talk about. And finally, scale of production is another consideration. So all of our sessions are moderated by either Cressida or myself, or occasionally we'll have a guest chair who's got a real in-depth knowledge of that particular category. And that's the kinds of context that we can provide towards the end of the session. So every product is judged blind, feedback is recorded. Once that happens, there is, we encourage some conversation. And then at the end of the session, there's a far bigger conversation, because the diversity of our judges, they all bring something different to the table as well. And that's a really fundamental point for us as well.
Who are the judges? What sort of people are they?
If they've completed their judging profile, they are available on our website.
Right.
But we have a large pool of expert judges from all spheres of the food and drink sector. And I think that's a real key point for us, that these panels have been curated over the past 16 years. So there is a huge pool of experience there, from manufacturers and developers to nutritionists, super tasters, and free from consumers as well. And for each judging category, we will carefully consider the judges that we invite to ensure that we've got every kind of aspect covered. And then we have a remote pool as well. So we may have, for argument's sake, these judges are tagged as kind of FODMAP specialists, and they may not be best suited to judge, say, the grocery category, but we may have had one condiment entry that is, really aiming at the FODMAP market. So, we will revert to them with specific queries. So I think that's why our judging process is so complex, because we take great pride in ensuring every aspect of every product is considered fairly. So yeah, I mean, we strongly value quality fairness throughout our whole process. And our judging process is, robust but adaptable.
For the producers that enter and win, what do they typically get from that?
Well, use of our logo is free, so they don't have to pay thousands or hundreds of pounds to use it, which is great. And the logo resonates with free from allergic consumers. It is a trusted mark of quality, and it can differentiate one brand from another, or product from another. Apart from the sense of fantastic achievement and the comprehensive feedback pack, we do encourage our entrants to sort of join the community, whether that's on social media or connecting with each other. I mean, entering any awards will enhance your credibility. It will help you stand out from the competition. It will give you that sort of morale boost as a recognition for all the hard work you've put in to develop. And then that obviously motivates producers, networking opportunities. So yeah, joining the community is important. It's obviously great for PR and marketing, attracting investment, and also where the feedback packs come in for continuous improvement of the products. There are products which have remained unchanged and been very successful for years. We all know those, but mostly products do require continuous improvement, especially in a world where ingredients change and go in and out of fashion and that sort of thing. And then I think most importantly, from the perspective of the free from an allergic consumer, people who win gain the trust of those consumers. So, and that's really important, and it's quite a difficult thing to understand unless you are in contact with the allergic community. It's a life or death situation getting the wrong food, and we take that incredibly seriously, and we work extremely hard to make sure our awards reflect those needs of the free from allergic consumer. And if it's not, if it's not dangerous in terms of fatalities, it's eating the wrong thing can knock you out for days, if not weeks. People with celiac disease are really badly affected by contamination. So there's a lot to be gained by entering, not winning necessarily, but entering for sure. And obviously the wins are wonderful and amazing. And we have a fantastic party at the end of the year for the main awards, which is brilliant, and everyone loves it.
What would you say sort of are the biggest achievements of the awards over the time you've been running?
Well, it's really hard to say how much our awards have contributed to the improvement in quality of free from products, or the improvement in labeling, or making them become well known. But we do pride ourselves on the fact that we have drawn attention, really positive attention, to the quality and excellence of free from products. Whether they enter our awards or not, actually, yes, we need to have entrants, and we love the entrants, and it's fantastic. But we are here to support free from. We are here to support the allergic consumer, I keep saying, and celebrating the companies that are making a difference with their safe and delicious foods is one of our most important achievements, I think.
I'm sure, like most parents, you don't have favourites, but are there particular winners that you're particularly proud of, or think have made a difference?
Oh, I think that's a really hard one. I think it's for me, it's the small guys who I couldn't say any favourites particularly. I mean, I have my favourites. I'm a great cheese fanatic, so I love all the free from cheeses. But it's seeing the development of the small people, and that is really amazing. And I suppose someone like Borough 22, who has been making top 40, almost top 13 free donuts for 10 years, and he's been entering our awards for years, and then finally he wins Product of the Year, which is the biggest, the most coveted, the top line award. And that is when I just melt, and I just feel so happy that achievement has been reached, because although there are awards and we run them, we don't decide who wins. It's the judges who decide who wins. So that, for us, that's we're almost on the side of the entrance, because we don't really know who's going to come out top at the end of it.
And certainly from my point of view, coming from the retailer background, I naturally get excited when we see great new own label entries coming through. I guess for me, this is twofold. Firstly, I know firsthand just what has gone into bringing that product to market, and it's so much more complex than the vast majority of consumers would understand. The insights team, the brand teams that translate these, that then goes to development briefs. It's just ensuring the right development resources there. It's then onboarding supplier partners, getting all the due diligence done through technical teams and audits and so forth. And then, making sure everything stacks up commercially, where the space is going to come from. The whole end-to-end process is timely and really, really complex. And being a smaller, more niche brand in a huge organization, you have to fight for everything. And then on the flip side, I know just what a difference those type of products will make to the end consumer, because it's ensuring the products remain accessible to all. And that's what the big retailers do. They have the scale and they're able to do that. And it's just those moments, at Tesco, when we launched Free From Scampi, having consumers at a show come crying because they hadn't tasted Scampi since they'd been diagnosed. When we first launched a Cornetto equivalent, all those moments have really, really stayed with me.
Well, what do you see coming up in the free from space? Are there gaps or innovations that are coming along, or gaps that are going to be filled?
I would say sort of, 12 months ago or 18 months ago, it was all veganism, and there was a definite switch from Free From in terms of development resource and budgets and space in store. Free From space was being eroded, and this year something switched, definitely. The cost of living crisis is putting a huge pressure on Free From food industry, and that's not going anywhere. Inflation is going to continue eating into consumer spending. Consumers can be put off by higher prices. There's a reluctant acceptance that you're paying more for gluten-free. But this does impact dabblers and the lifestylers, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because it forces brands to really focus on their core target audience, which is the Free From consumer. That is the heartland, and it should be, of everything they're doing. What we are seeing, and this is coming through, is obviously the squeeze is hitting more middle and high income families. We've seen, and Mintel actually in their 2023 market report talk about how households prioritize kind of treating when money gets tight. The idea of a little treat is a really big thing, and food is for many an accessible way to kind of deliver that. So indulgent food options, and certainly the sort of more premium dining in at home. A number of leading brands have really credited their success over the past 12 months to innovation. And there's definitely been a renewed focus on that, be that new products, be rebranding. And it's a bit of a catalyst. A couple of leading brands do it, another few do it. So I think it's going to be an exciting time for existing brands to kind of reevaluate. And I think there is quite a lot of NPD in the pipeline. I also think merchandising will be a really interesting area going forward. So for Free From, there has always been a debate around how do you merchandise Free From? Is it a destination? And as many other ranges kind of got evolved and reintegrated into main category, Free From retained its, destination. Some years ago, Morrison's in a number of stores brought Free From together with all their temperature regimes. So you had your ambient grocery, you had your frozen and your chilled all together. M&S have started to do this now in their concept stores and as part of their rollout program. And Sainsbury's have just recently launched that in a number of concepts, well, not necessarily concepts, but a small number of trial stores. So merchandising is well and truly on the map. It gets an awful lot of positive feedback from consumers, and it certainly prompts a reappraisal of, you know, a retailer or a brand's commitment to free from. So I think that's going to be quite interesting over the next 12 months.
Have you got time for a couple of questions?
Yeah.
Sally asks, what are your top 3 free from brands this year?
Well, I mean, so the winners of the top awards, Borough 22, they're pretty up and coming, still very small.
For the awards one that really, I mean, we had so many categories. We've got, you know, 30 odd categories. One that really stood out for me was, and it's a tiny brand, was the Doorstep Baker, who did nut and sesame free sourdough. So it wasn't gluten or wheat free, but you know, it is so difficult to get real bread that is nut and sesame safe. So that one really stood out for me.
What's next for the Free From Food Awards?
We've got a few new things this year. So the Sustainability Award, which we developed with Sustainable Kitchen Consultants, which is essentially an extra entry, and you will be assessed on your sustainable practices and given some sort of advisories, and then you will basically be given a score, and that'll be fantastic. You'll be able to use a logo if you reach a top score. We are, for the first time, we've created a logo for the Drink Awards. We've had a Drink Awards ever since we introduced gluten-free beer category in about 2009 or 10. But this year, the winners of the Drink Awards will have their own Free From Drink Awards logo, which is really exciting. We've got the return of food to go. So we've got our grab and go category, which has come back due to popular demand.
We've evolved we've had a gifting category for the last few years. And now that we have an Easter Awards, as part of the main awards, one of our categories is Easter. But we just shift that kind of is what we start with in 2024, obviously, because of the timelines. And with Christmas, you know, we wanted gifting was to promote the kind of all year round offer, but we've evolved that based on entrant and consumer feedback that's recognising more of the celebratory occasion, because consumers do tell us how they struggle outside of the seasonal windows. So Christmas is incredible, you know, that you can even get a reasonable array of party food now. But when it comes to all year round, you know, the free consumers are having to stockpile at Christmas to keep them going throughout the year. So we just want to kind of bring that to the forefront of, you know, what does this all year round offer look like, and, you know, what options are there?
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. If you want to find out more about the Free From Food Awards and enter, you can do that at www.freefromfoodawards.co.uk. If you want to listen to previous episodes of the podcast, you can do that at www.froghop.co.uk/podcast, or search for Food Founders Interviews wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll be back in December with Lucy from Cloudy and Finn. And you can register for that at www.froghop.co.uk/kitchen. And thanks so much for joining us. Thank you, Cressida. Thank you, Nikki. Really, really interesting conversation.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Take care. Cheers.